tal? Buenos días a todos. Bienvenidos al primer webinar que ofrece Derquimica junto con nuestra representada BNatural, empresa especializada en la extracción bajo método patentado de derivados artísticos. Permitid antes de nada resumir un poco Derquimica, quién somos. Nos dedicamos a la distribución de materias primas para varias áreas de las ciencias de la salud desde hace más de 50 años, para pharma, health food, cosmetics, bio y pet food, donde trabajamos con más de 2.500 referencias, aunque no tenemos un portfolio cerrado y nos seguimos adaptando a las necesidades del mercado, así como de todos nuestros clientes. En los últimos tiempos, y por motivos que todos conocemos, la actividad antivírica de algunos activos de origen botánico y animal ha suscitado mucho interés en el mercado. Y es por eso que, dada la amplia experiencia en extracción de polifenoles del própolis con un método patentado M.E.D y junto con la realización de varios estudios, el doctor Zaccaria, director científico de BNatural, les detallará durante el webinar las aplicaciones del Propolis M.E.D, así como los resultados del último estudio clínico para tratar las infecciones del tracto respiratorio superior. Si durante el webinar surgiera alguna duda o pregunta, pueden dejarla por escrito y tras la intervención del doctor Zaccaria intentaremos resolverlas. Además, si durante los próximos días surgiera alguna duda o algún comentario, pues nos lo pueden pasar por email y las transmitiremos al doctor Zaccaria. Intentaremos también resolverlas. Finalmente, quiero indicarles que el webinar va a quedar grabado por si durante unos días pues, quieren revisarlos, les pasaremos el link. Sin más, demos la bienvenida al doctor Vincenzo Zaccaria. Good morning, Vincenzo. Ciao.
Good morning.
If you want, you can start when you want.
Okay. Can you permit me to share my presentation, please?
Yes. Let me check. I don't know. Just let me check. Just a moment. Because I don't know. No, I can share. I think now you are allowed.
Okay. Yep. Can you see my presentation? Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning to everyone. Thanks to be here for interest in our research. Thanks, Mark, for the introduction. And I'm Vincenzo Zaccaria. I'm the R&D and Technical Manager of BNatural. And today I'm here to present the results of clinical trial on propolis activity on upper respiratory tract infections. First of all, I will share with you the agenda of the meeting. Today, we will see what is propolis, the composition, variability, the scientific approach on propolis research from BNatural, the road from propolis to Propolis M.E.D, the preclinical trial, the clinical trial, and the applications of polyphenols coming from propolis. I would like to introduce what is propolis, the differences between propolis and Propolis M.E.D, Propolis M.E.D and other extracts, and I will start from definition of propolis. Propolis is a resin substance which bees collect from apical buds and used to protect the hive from parasite roots. Starting from this sentence, we have two information. The first is that propolis, the mainly activity of propolis is the protection against UV rays, bacteria, viruses. And the second information is that propolis comes from apical buds of different plants. This means that each plant produces different kind of resins having different chemical composition. And this is at the base, this concept is at the basis of the huge variability of propolis. But the variability of propolis is the value of propolis and the richness of propolis, but also a big limit to use this material for food supplements or food. The chemical composition of propolis depends on climatic and botanical origin, the extraction method, and collecting. In the world, there are two main types of propolis. The green propolis coming from Brazil, in fact, is called also Brazilian green propolis. Its chemical marker is ertaperin C, derives from Baccharis dracunculifolia, and it is rich in phenolic acids. While brown propolis, also called European poplar propolis, derives from Populus species. Its chemical marker is galangin, and it is rich in flavonoids. M.E.D propolis is a brown propolis. But without travel around the world, if we put a single beehive in a single place and we collect the resins during the year, we obtain different resins having different physicochemical characteristics. If we extract these resins using the same method of extraction, we can obtain different extracts from the same beehive. So different extracts means different activity, different chemical composition. Despite this great variability, in the world there is a great attention on propolis. In fact, more than 30,000 tons of extract are produced every year, and until now, more than 3,000 scientific papers have been published. These papers report the biological activity of propolis, for instance, antioxidant, antibacterial, antiviral activity, but the mechanism of action is still unclear due to the high variability of propolis and lack standardization of the extracts. To overcome these limits, the challenge of BNatural was to switch the concept of propolis from a folk remedy to a defined nutraceutical compound for new and traditional applications. The most known and traditional application of propolis is in the cure of upper respiratory tract infections. This pathology is a social pathology because it is responsible for 20 million missed days of school and 20 million days of work lost. The etiological agents, the risk factors are bacteria and viruses. Often these pathology are cured using anti-inflammatory or antibiotics drugs. The symptoms are related with the inflammation. It could be a good strategy to prevent this, prevention of this disease, improve the immune system, avoid the entrance of the microorganisms, or reduce the viral load or the bacterial load. And can Propolis M.E.D protect the upper respiratory tract infection, heal this pathology? To answer to this question, we start from propolis, from the standardization of propolis and active compounds of propolis, in order to have a standard extract and patented extract. And we studied anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, antibacterial, antiviral activity in vitro and antioxidant activity and safety in vivo. And then we moved on a randomized double placebo-controlled clinical trial on upper respiratory tract infections. Multidynamic extraction method starts from a deep knowledge of raw material. We have been analyzing during the year hundreds of raw propolis coming around the world. And we found chemical similarity in propolis coming from Europe, South America, and Asia. And starting from these different raw material, we developed our method of extraction. Multidynamic extraction method start from a macro depuration from waxes of the propolis M.E.D, mixing the propolis coming from Europe, Asia, and South America, and several steps of extraction, changing the alcoholic degree in order to extract polyphenols having different solubility in different alcoholic degree. At the end, we obtain different a number of mixture of solutions that we mix, and we remove the alcohol in order to obtain a soft extract without alcohol that we call Propolis mother extract. Propolis mother extract is from inactive resins, from waxins, and it is rich in polyphenols. In particular, we guarantee that more than 25% of total polyphenols is represented by 6 markers that are chrysin, galangin, pinosembrin, apigenin, pycnobaskin, quercetin, and now CAPA. This is the fingerprint of Propolis M.E.D, but it is also the fingerprint of brown propolis. This means that Propolis M.E.D is a sort of gold standard of propolis, of brown propolis. To prove that our extraction method is standardized, reproducible, and different than the common extraction method of propolis, we selected, as usually, 3 raw propolis from South America, 3 from Europe, and 3 from Asia, and we extract this raw propolis using traditional extraction method and multidynamic extraction method. In the first case, we obtain 9 different extracts having a variable distribution of fingerprint of active compounds of propolis. And we conclude that this is not standardized as a method of extraction. The same raw material were extracted using multidynamic extraction method. And we observed a reduction of variability in the distribution of fingerprint, and the chromatographic behavior of these extracts are very, very similar. And we conclude that that Propolis M.E.D, deriving from multidynamic extraction method, is standardized and reproducible. Here we evaluated the reproducibility not only of the chemical for the chemical aspects, but also for the biological activity, and studied the most known activity of propolis, that is the antibacterial activity. To do this, we chosen strains of microorganisms coming from ATCC library or clinical isolates, antibiotic resistance or susceptible, and test the activity of extract A, B, and C in order to evaluate the reproducibility. And we observed very low and close each other minimum inhibitory concentrations expressed in micrograms per ml. In this panel, there are microorganisms involved in upper respiratory tract infections or vaginal or gut pain. But it is interesting to underline that the propolis, it is not doesn't work against lactobacillus species. After this first part of our research, we want to prove that we are able to dissolve all complex, active complex, polyphenol complex own of the Propolis M.E.D in all our extracts, having different solubility. And then starting from a single Propolis mother extract, we produced dry extract, oily extract, glycolic extract, glyceric, and hydroalcoholic extracts. These extracts were analyzed in SPLC UV mass, as usually in BNatural. And we observed very similar distribution and chromatographic behavior, both in SPLC UV and mass, in all extracts, even if dissolved in excipients having different solubility. This is characterization of these extracts, and all chemical compounds are present in all these extracts, and these extracts are similar for chemical composition, but the quantity of polyphenols is different. Normalizing the milligrams of Trolox to the polyphenols, we observe that the antioxidant activity of these extracts, the different extracts, are the same because the active compounds are the same. So doing, we can assure the same quality and activity in every batch, in every product, also changing the extracts because the active compounds are the keys. You are free to choose the best extract for your formula, but you are sure that the active compounds are the same. And from now, we will talk about active compounds, polyphenols, and not on quantity of raw propolis or drug extract ratio, and so on. Another activity of propolis, very interesting activity of propolis, is the antiviral activity of propolis. To prove this activity of Propolis M.E.D, we test 4 extracts: glyceric, glycolic, hydroalcoholic, and oily extract against herpes simple virus type 1 and type 2. And you observe that polyphenols from Propolis M.E.D work against these viruses even if dissolved in different solids, having a C15 values comparable each other. And then we move to study another activity of propolis, that is the virucidal activity of propolis. And in compliance with this period, we study the activity of propolis against different coronaviruses, using as virus model feline coronavirus, human coronavirus, but low pathogenic coronavirus, but also against SARS-CoV-2. And we observe that polyphenols from Propolis M.E.D exhibits a strong and rapid virucidal activity against enveloped RNA virus. But what is the difference between antiviral and virucidal activity? The antiviral activity is made by a substance that is able to stop the virus replication into the cells, while the virucidal activity is the activity of the substance able to inactivate the viruses out of the cells. And thanks to this difference, thanks to the activity, the virucidal activity of Propolis M.E.D, we can imagine to use Propolis M.E.D as a sort of invisible mask, able to reduce the viral load of the viral load in the upper respiratory tract, and using a very low quantity of polyphenols, because in this graph we can see that 22.5 to 0.25 milligrams of polyphenols are able to stop to inactivate the viruses out of the cells, and at least you can protect your upper respiratory tract at least for 30 minutes. And since the symptoms of upper respiratory tract infections are related to inflammation and the healing of this pathology passed through the restore of the balance of the antioxidant activity, we want to evaluate and study deeply the antioxidant anti-inflammatory activity of Propolis M.E.D, the intracellular mechanism of action of propolis. And we did this follow the expression level of microRNAs, mRNAs, and proteins related to this activity. And we observe that Propolis M.E.D is able to enter in the cells and interact with this pathway through an epigenetic mechanism of actions. And then we start to study also in vivo using mouse model, and we observe that chronic ingestion of Propolis M.E.D is able to increase the endogenous antioxidant defense in mice through the increase of the expression level of superoxidase mutase and catalase. These results taken together suggest that Propolis M.E.D is able also to support and improve the immune system. Now we had what it takes to start with the randomized double placebo-controlled clinical trial on upper respiratory tract infections. This clinical trial was an Italian clinical trial made in Naples and involved 122 healthy subjects with mild upper respiratory tract infections. These volunteers did them not use antibiotics or anti-inflammatory or immunological drugs before the enrollment. This clinical trial, the duration was 5 days with 8 weeks of follow-up. The medical doctor, through a clinical evaluation, questionnaires, and bacterial truth swab, evaluated the symptoms of the volunteers, such as hoarseness, swelling, and redness, and the patients met the medical doctor at 0, 3, 5, and 15 days after the start of the study. The treatment was 25 milligrams of polyphenols from Propolis M.E.D. This means that these polyphenols have the fingerprint of Propolis M.E.D. These polyphenols were administered in 2-4 sprays 3 times a day for 5 days. And after only 3 days of treatment with 24 milligrams a day of polyphenols, the 83% of treated subjects had remissions of symptoms, while 72% of subjects in the placebo group had at least one remaining symptom. It is important to underline that in this clinical trial, no adverse reactions were observed. At the end, we can see that propolis can resolve the symptoms of the upper respiratory tract, acting on the inflammation, on the viruses or bacteria presence. It could help in the prevention, supporting the immune system and reducing the viral or bacterial load. Could reduce the risk factors because it is a good microorganism agent against microorganisms. This is the first randomized double placebo-controlled clinical trial on standardized active compounds of propolis. In this clinical trial, we proved that an active dosage of active compounds is able to resolve a pathology. Here we talk about M.E.D polyphenols and not only propolis, as just said, not drug extract ratio or raw propolis quantity. As to the ability, the know-how of BNatural in the solution of these polyphenols in different kinds of extracts, you can choose the best extract for your formula for use these extracts in food, in food supplements, medical device, and so on. But you are sure that the active compounds which showed activity in the clinical trial or in the preclinical trial are the same, are active. Thank you for your kind attention. I am at your disposal for any questions. Here my contact or indirect now. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincenzo, for your speech. I don't know if someone has any questions. We will wait just a couple of minutes if someone can do any question. In case no questions are now on the chat, and if someone has any questions in the near future, we will send it to you and we can reply. Well, you have a question. I don't know if you can read it, but I can. Would it be possible to use the results of the clinical study with different forms and dosages?
Yeah, it is possible because we prove the activity of active compounds, not of an extract, a specific extract, because in each extract we have the same active compounds. You can change the extract, but you have the same fingerprint. We guarantee each batch in our certificate of analysis the same distribution of active compounds. It's like use a drug. You can change the pharmaceutical form for a tablet to a syrup, but the active compounds are the same. We developed the concept of polyphenols with this idea.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Maybe I can ask you a question that it's very common on the market, and maybe it will be interesting for our people here. Maybe you can explain how you, if we see propolis brown, we think that it's has more potency or more efficacy than other propolis that is maybe yellowish or not with powerful color. Can you please explain this to everyone?
Yeah, propolis M.E.D or propolis, there are many types of propolis, but also into propolis M.E.D there are differences between one or another propolis. But the issues are two: the quantity of raw propolis, because propolis brown or propolis green are produced around the world, while propolis red or yellow have a short we have a short production of this propolis, and then in order to guarantee the constant supplying of extracts and or raw material, it is important to produce propolis like propolis brown or propolis green. The activity of propolis around the world are the same: antioxidant, antibacterial, antiviral. There are a little bit differences between one propolis and another in the activity. The differences is based on the power of this activity, because some activities, for instance, antiviral activity or antibacterial activity, are linked to the presence of flavonoids, and in this case, brown propolis has an high quantity of flavonoids compared to brown propolis, or to yellow propolis, and so on. Moreover, we made also comparative study between brown propolis and green propolis, because we produce also green propolis, but brown propolis, in our experience and in literature, has a strong activity. But green propolis is common in the world because the standardization of, green propolis is common in the world because the standardization of this extract is easier than brown propolis, because it derives from a single plant, that is Baccharis dracunculifolia. So I don't know what is the best propolis in the world, but we can see honestly that brown propolis is a propolis clinically proved, reproducible, and you are sure that you use a quantity of active compounds, your activity is the same always. Using our other propolis, no. You can have a propolis very good, but the next batch is without active compounds, and this is a problem.
Okay. Thank you, Vincenzo.
Sure.
Someone also asked if the presentation will be available. We can send it to all of our clients in the near future. So
yes, I have no problems, because all works presented today are available in PubMed, because are published. we have maybe I have to remove the number of the residual activity because residual activity because it is under publication. Then we have to protect this number, but the presentation is available.
Okay.
Also, the scientific papers, if you want, someone wants to read the papers. Yes.
Okay.
The papers are open in PubMed.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So it seems that no more questions. So thank you very much, Vincenzo, for your speech and for your assistance. Muchas gracias a todos. Muchas gracias a todos también por vuestra asistencia. Esperamos pronto volver a realizar algún otro webinar y que este sea el inicio de muchos otros que vendrán a posteriori. Un saludo y nos vemos pronto.